Coming up, a 2-year-old boy befriends a very spooky pal.
I think he got kind of lonely and he found this skeleton and is like, oh, this can be my friend.
Then we meet a man who turns pumpkins into works of art.
I'm so obsessive. When I get into something, I don't go to sleep, I stay up all night, I keep doing it.
Plus, the story behind a mummy who lived in a garage.
There was the box right here on the wall you could open.
And finally, how I proved I always have a trick up my sleeve.
That's a curler. Those are Halls. You ever tasted candy and how sweet candy is? Yeah. These taste nothing like that.
All of that and more on this special Halloween edition of On the Road. Hello, I'm Steve Hartman. Thanks for joining us for our CBS News streaming series, where every month or so, we revisit some of my favorite stories from my 25 years on the road. Fall is officially upon us. The leaves are changing, the air is crisp, and for many kids, including my own, one of the most anticipated holidays is approaching, Halloween. For the next half hour, we're going to feature some special but sometimes spooky stories highlighting tricks and treats of all kinds. Up first, how a Rhode Island man pumped up his award-winning pumpkin. Take a look.
I mean, it's history.
History.
It's actually history.
Pumpkin history. For David Frericks and pumpkin growers across the globe, this is the year they've all been waiting for. The year they would hopefully get to see a pumpkin that makes these look like pomegranate seeds, that dwarfs even the 1,600 pound giants you see at contests. A pumpkin so massive, most growers thought the poundage just wasn't possible.
It would basically implode, that the shell of the pumpkin, the ribs inside, wouldn't be strong enough to hold that weight.
Like aerospace and its sound barrier, sports and its 4-minute mile. The holy grail for giant pumpkin people has always been the 1-ton pumpkin. For decades, growers have been pursuing this in vain.
1,507 pounds.
But a few months ago, rumors started circulating that there were some giants growing in the backyard of this house in Green, Rhode Island.
Even though the owner planted foliage to discourage looky-loos, people have been desperately trying to get a peek. The grower, a country club manager named Ron Wallace, really wanted to downplay expectations until at least one of them got weighed, which happened last week.
For a 2,000-pound pumpkin.
And sure enough,
Will it happen?
It topped a ton. 2,009 pounds. But here's the really amazing thing. That was his light pumpkin. The even heavier, even more grotesque fruit was still in the garden.
It's not a beauty contest.
Where all summer long it's been putting on up to 40 pounds a day.
If it's putting on 30, 40 pounds a day, you could almost watch it grow.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about it.
You can see it grow?
You can see it.
Of course, there is a science to this, which Ron explained,
the mycorrhizal fungi.
and which I didn't understand.
Atmospheric nitrogen.
What I can tell you is I've driven to Toledo in things that weigh less than this pumpkin. We won't know exactly what it weighs until tomorrow when it goes to another competition. But 2,100 pounds isn't out of the question.
Now, everyone's saying, let's go for 2,500 pounds.
When's this going to stop? I'm worried about them taking over the earth.
There has to be a limit at some point. There's a limit on everything, I think.
Let's hope. And God forbid he ever gets his hands on a Brussels sprout.
Since that segment first aired back in 2012, Ron won the World Championship with a 2,307-pound pumpkin. Up next, how a Michigan man caught me off guard with his incredible talent. Let's watch.
When you watch the Villafane family of Michigan dig into their Halloween pumpkins,
Go, start carving.
the first question that comes to mind is,
There he goes, there he goes.
what a pumpkin ever do to them? Norman Bates carved more kindly. And yet, this is how Ray Villafane teaches his kids how to start on a pumpkin.
Go.
And not just his kids.
Take this tool.
He goes around to schools and tries to get other kids to adopt the same skin 'em alive approach.
If you want to make a good pumpkin, you have to push the limits.
There's clearly a madness to his method, but Ray's not completely out of his gourd. In fact,
Okay?
he may be a genius.
It's a different way of thinking.
For the past 15 years, Ray has spent every October in his basement studio, reinventing the art of pumpkin carving. Using sculpting tools instead of knives, Ray can now take a pumpkin and over the course of about 8 hours, turn it into a truly museum-quality fruit.
To me, you carve a pumpkin to transform it into something that's alive.
Believe it or not, all these started out as single pumpkins, each carving more improbable than the next, each creation challenging the limits of what is pumpkinly possible.
I'm so obsessive. When I get into something, I don't go to sleep, I stay up all night, I keep doing it.
Has he been like this since you met him?
Pretty much. There's an apple, honey.
Ray's wife, Tammy, says pumpkins were just the beginning.
I need a knife.
They merely opened his eyes to an infinitely carvable world. Today, the former grade school teacher sculpts full-time. He makes models like this for toy companies, and he's starting to get into sand sculpting, too. This is what he made the first time he ever tried. Ray clearly has a gift. Such a gift, it's almost a curse.
I see the eyes are too big.
Like so many people who are the best at what they do,
Structure of the face is not right.
Ray is rarely satisfied with anything he does.
Would you throw it away?
I've thrown away better ones than this, yeah.
And although it drives his wife nuts, Ray says it's a healthy neurosis. In fact, that's the message he likes to leave with kids. That no matter what you do, to be great, you can't ever think you are. And of course, done? 15 years of practice.
Very nice job.
Doesn't hurt either.
Ray has since moved to Arizona, where his company, Villafane Studios, has partnered with a historic ghost town called Vulture City. There, Ray is showcasing new creations with the goal of someday making a movie. Coming up, we'll meet a boy with a humorous friend that will tickle your funny bone. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for being with us. Being a kid during the early stages of the pandemic was a challenge. Some kids struggled to make new friends because of stay-at-home orders. But for one boy in Salt Lake City, a certain toy was able to fill that void.
It's hard being an only child.
Put the dirt in there.
Especially during a pandemic. Which may explain why 2-year-old Theo Brady of Salt Lake City, Utah, recently felt a strange attraction to a Halloween decoration.
I think he got kind of lonely and he found this skeleton and is like, oh, this can be my friend.
So, to placate her son, Abigail Brady agreed to something utterly ridiculous.
Like, I was just swallowed all my pride and was like, you know, if this makes my son happy, I'm gonna do it.
Do what, you ask? Take them on a play date to the beach. Abigail was secretly hoping that would be the end of it, but the pair hit it off famously, and for the last month, Theo and the skeleton, who they named Benny, have been joined at the hip bone, dining together, dressing up as ghosts, and winding down at the end of a hauntingly long day.
Yeah, some weird way it's comforting. He likes to read Benny books, which is so cute and creepy, but cute. Are you excited to take Benny to the grocery store?
Creepy, but cute. It's not exactly what most parents want for a baby's first bromance, but the bond is undeniable. No bones about it. Whether they're at the market or on the playground, if not for a lack of an epidermis, you'd swear this skeleton was Theo's brother from another mummy. In fact, at times, Benny almost seemed happy. His humorous clearly showing. And who wouldn't want this kind of friend for their child?
He just sees the skeleton as someone that needs love.
Yeah, I think it's fine, unless he starts walking around with a casket.
Yeah, then that's like, oh my gosh, too far.
But for now, it's nothing to be scared of.
That's okay.
In fact, this October especially, I think we could all benefit from a little less fright and a lot more
You're so nice.
friendly.
Theo, who is now 4, is still best friends with Benny. In fact, his mom says that Benny has a spot on the living room couch all year round. Up next, a story from way back. This is from when I used to do a project called Everybody Has a Story. You may remember we took a dart and threw it at a map of America, then went wherever that dart hit and pick somebody at random out of the phone book to do a story on. This is back when there were phone books. Anyway, we found a lot of crazy stories that way, but none crazier or spookier than the story of a mummy named Spaghetti. Take a look.
We'll start halfway through this time. Here we go.
Watch what I'm about to do very carefully, because in a minute you're going to say to yourself, there's no way he picked that story out of the phone book.
You ready?
But I assure you,
This is the moment.
I did.
All right, let's call that Beecham McDougal. Did you know your whole life that this is what you wanted to do?
It was the last thing I wanted to do.
Beecham McDougal is a funeral director by birth.
I got it the wrong way.
It's what his father did, and his father did, and his father did. And when Beecham inherited the business, he also inherited Laurinburg's most famous legend.
Everybody knew about Spaghetti.
That's what they called him.
Mm-hmm. I guess he was an Italian.
The legend of Spaghetti started in 1911. Records show a traveling carnival worker was killed in a fight and brought to the McDougal Funeral Home on April 28th. His real name, Concetto Farmica.
As the story goes, Concetto's father then worked out some sort of embalming payment plan with old Mr. McDougal. He put $10 down and promised to return later with the rest of the money and specific burial instructions.
And nothing more was ever heard from him.
But just in case the family did ever return, Beecham's grandfather saved the body. 30 years went by. Beecham's dad took over, and there went 30 more, leaving the McDougals with a bona fide mummy, which, for lack of a better place, they stored upright in the garage.
There was the box right here on the wall you could open.
Somebody say, I dare you to go in. And you go in.
You just kind of duck in,
Straight up in that box.
duck out.
It would really scare you.
Oh, good Lord, no. Oh, Lord.
Over the years, thousands of kids braved McDougal's garage. Eventually, word spread.
It was all over the news.
Tourists started showing up until 1972, when a congressman named Biaggi took exception to a fellow Italian becoming a public spectacle. So to bury the controversy, they buried Spaghetti, 61 years after he had died.
And a concrete truck backed up right over here.
Concrete truck?
Concrete truck.
I believe they put about 2 tons of cement on him.
The McDougals were worried someone might actually dig him up. Spaghetti had become that popular.
He held quite a place of honor in our community.
I think there was a great fondness there.
That was like a member of the family.
And that's how a dead man made the best friends of his life and gave a funeral director the best story of his.
All right.
Okay. It's Gila County, Arizona.
Beecham McDougal retired and sold the McDougal Funeral Home back in 2016. But to this day, he says he still gets asked about Spaghetti. After the break, the sweet story of how a group of kids made Halloween a real treat for a young girl battling cancer. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We hope you're enjoying this special show highlighting the tricks and treats of Halloween. Children across America look forward to trick-or-treating, but for 5-year-old Zoe of Atlanta, Georgia, going door to door was not possible because of her battle with leukemia. Instead, Zoe was greeted with a big surprise. Take a look.
A search for hope at the end of this anxious week led me to this humble bundle. Zoe, now 3, is the proud product of TJ and Courtney Thomas of Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, look who's here. Hello. Cameo.
Back in February, Zoe was diagnosed with leukemia. And because her immune system is now compromised, she couldn't go trick-or-treating last weekend with all the other kids. In fact, her parents even had to put up a sign to keep others away. Sorry, no candy. Child with cancer.
The whole purpose was just so that we wouldn't have to keep telling kids sorry and have disappointed kids. Never expected anything like this.
Never expected those little ghosts and ghouls to be such saints.
I just immediately started crying.
There at the foot of the sign, trick-or-treaters left their Halloween candy for the child inside. Doorbell camera footage shows kid after kid making the same character-defining decision, mostly on their own.
No grown-ups were there telling you what to do?
No.
We tracked down a few of the angels.
She dumped her whole bag.
Your whole bag?
I wanted to give back to them.
I wanted to give back to them.
It's somebody's little girl.
The empathy we heard and saw. Courtney says it was just the medicine her family needed.
During this crazy time with everything going on in the world, just the gesture of, hey, we're all in this together, and just remind each other that there's still hope and love.
Still hope, love, and much better role models than the ones we obsess over.
Zoe finished her treatment in June and is now in remission. This year, she plans to join her friends on Halloween and dress up as a princess. For our final story, we take a time machine back to 1998. Back then, I thought it would be funny to see what would happen if I offered kids some alternatives to Halloween candy. To this day, their reactions are priceless. Whether you know it or not, your reputation was riding on the decision you made this Halloween. If you sprung for those big king-size candy bars, or if you gave out a couple measly kernels of candy corn. Kids remember this kind of stuff, which is why the kids in this neighborhood will never ever forget what happened when they knocked on this door.
Trick or treat!
It was a little social experiment. See, I was wondering how kids would react if I offered them a choice between these fabulous treats. Clothespins, curlers, Stimudent plaque removers, lima bean and pea kebabs, halls, and Ensure.
I know you may be tempted to take a little more, but just take one.
What are these?
That's a curler. Those are halls. You ever tasted candy and how sweet candy is?
Yeah.
These taste nothing like that.
And with that kind of ringing endorsement, these little devils had to pick the best of all possible evils.
The clothespin.
It was clearly a difficult decision for everyone.
Could you eat this?
Yeah, you can eat that. It's vegetables.
And even in costume, a lot of them found it hard to mask their disappointment, especially when I made the choices even tougher.
You know, I'm sorry, I'm out of the good stuff. I'm down to pot scrubbers and pumice.
A lot of the kids either told me flat out, or at least insinuated, that this stinks.
Why'd you put the clothespin on your nose?
I think I overheard one girl mutter, "This guy's crazy."
What'd you say? No, you said this guy's what?
Nice. What are these?
Oh, did you? Okay, thanks.
But I am pleased to report that insincerity was the exception, and that overall, most of the kids were actually grateful for their plaque removers.
I'll try that because I really have bad teeth.
Their halls.
No, not all the halls, princess.
And their pumice.
Have you ever seen a rock?
Yeah.
It's a lot like a rock.
Can we get two things?
But no one was sweeter than Little Red Riding Hood.
Happy Halloween to you, too.
Took her vegetable kebab and wasted no time in savoring it. But what really made my night was when the doorbell rang again.
I need some more, but I'm really hungry.
You want some more vegetables?
Papa's really hungry.
And just like that, Little Red Riding Hood turned the tables on a wolf out to play a trick.
You want another?
Hey, Tessie, that's enough. That's enough now.
You can have another. Do you want another?
Oh, yeah. That was black pie.
Next year, I'll have to try Brussels sprouts.
Fortunately for the children of America, I'm now sticking with candy. Well, that concludes our special. We wish you all a very happy and safe Halloween. For brand new On the Road stories, don't forget to tune in to the CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell every Friday. Until then, I'm Steve Hartman. Stay kind.